Hey, what's going on everyone? John here, and today I wanted to do a comparison, maybe just if you're doing a little bit of research on whether or not you should get a Wi-Fi based Senville mini split or the basic Leto version. So this is going to be kind of a comparison to the Leto versus the AHRI. Here I actually have the Leto installed, and I'm actually going to show you and talk a little bit about a solution here that I'm using to add Wi-Fi capability here to my Leto. So this will just give you some ideas in terms of whether or not you should really go for the Wi-Fi model or stick to the base model. I'm also going to share just some of my experiences now that I've had this mini split installed for a while, and I'll also show you some installation that we did on this, as well as some ideas in terms of what it takes to run. So let's first start with the mini split itself. Overall, it looks really nice. You know, with this, basically, it just comes out a little bit on the wall. I did have a professional HVAC company come in and install this, so do expect, while the lines are pre-charged with coolant, unless you're really handy with DIY, I recommend probably having a professional install this. You do have a nice LED up here on the front right that gives you an idea of what the temperature is currently set to, and then the fins that come out here in terms of the actual air going into the room can be modulated. Now you can actually get this model in various sizes. This particular model is actually the 12,000 BTU, and this is actually a converted garage bay. This is actually my kind of game room slash man cave, and this formerly was a garage bay that was attached to a 3-car garage that we have over here. So as you can see, we have a pretty large bay. I converted one of the middle bays here into a gym, and then I've got this basically with 2 other bays with our cars. But this room I converted into a man cave, and basically I wanted something to help with heat in here. Last winter I actually ran this, and this was our primary source of heat in here. And while it worked pretty well, we found that whoever did the installation previously from the last homeowners didn't really do a good job of insulating the floor super well. So a lot of cold air in the really cold winter months would actually come up here. So in this past summer, I actually ended up adding baseboard heat, and so far I've primarily been heating with this, but I can tell you that having the Senville mini split installed is a must-have during the summer months to have that air conditioning. This can also work right now as I have it on for heat. I've got our thermostat set to 68 and the mini split set to 68, so pretty much they can work off of one another. Now, a solution that I did to actually get Wi-Fi, if you're maybe looking into the AHRI model, is instead of going with the AHRI and, you know, obviously much larger investment, I decided to get this third-party device called the Celio Breeze. And what this does is it actually emulates the Senville mini split remote. So normally if I was in this room, I have the remote here which has all the functionality. You can basically change the temperature, you can turn on the fan mode, cooling, heating, and then you also have all these other modes like swing. You can do direct, you can also do something called follow me, which will actually follow the temperature of the remote itself. Pretty straightforward, right? You've also got self-cleaning options. I wanted the capability to basically use this remote while being inside of my house, right? This is actually a detached garage. So I needed the ability that if I wake up in the morning and I wanted to have the room nice and heated, I could basically enable this remote. So what this little device does is it actually sends an infrared signal up to the actual Leto mini split here and pretty much acts identically to the remote control here, but it can be controlled Wi-Fi with a mobile app on my phone. So you can see here I can actually go in, and if we set the temperature, I'm going to set it to 70. This will now change to 70, and you can see it's now set on the device. So it's pretty much just emulating this, and of course I can set schedules and do all these other things. There's other devices that will do similar things, but this was a big thing that I really needed in this space, and this is something that you can add on, you know, very easily to any mini split that's like this. So let's kind of go through the rest of the setup with the mini split itself, just so you have some idea of what to expect. So in terms of heating and cooling the space, if I have this door shut, it does a pretty good job of this entire room, especially in the summer months, and I've had no issues there. Now, in terms of installation, I actually had to hire an electrician, and what they did is they ran a wire that actually comes out over here, and there's a disconnect. You can see there's like a yellow electrical cable that runs over here in the corner. There's a disconnect, which I'll show you here in a bit. We'll go outside and I'll show you the whole condenser unit and the whole setup. This allows you to actually disconnect the power outside manually as needed, which is really a requirement with these mini splits. Another thing to be aware of is we actually have a sub panel here in the garage, and you can get a 120 volt mini split or a 240 volt. If you're getting up into higher BTU ranges, you're really going to be required to get something that's got higher voltage, but ultimately you're going to end up taking up two breakers within your panel. So with 120 volt, you only need one breaker. So if you're kind of low on additional breakers in your panel, that's something to be aware of. But basically what's happening is this is actually coming in from the outside all the way up to the mini split on the condenser side. It then runs all the way down under this finished wood, which we added later, and then it actually runs up this wall all the way up to this beam, and then we have it running all the way across down the beam. So I just had the electrician basically staple it here. It's this yellow wire that runs all the way across, and then this comes down into our panel. So just to give you some idea, again, you know, a standard breaker when it comes to something like this, I had this box built to kind of cover things up. You're pretty much looking at, you know, basically one of these circuits. So I believe the actual mini split, I think, is actually on 20 right here. So this is all that we're taking up. You can see it says office AC. So this is the one we were taking up, and my entire panel was actually full. So I had no capability to add a 240 volts. So that's something to keep in mind when you get your mini split. Now let's go outside and I'll actually show you the setup of the condenser and give you an idea of what that looks like. Another thing to just note is you can see here, this is where my house is. So normally when I wake up in the morning, it's winter time. Obviously it's not ideal for me to go all the way outside to activate the remote and turn that on. And if I want heat in the morning, you know, I'm coming out to a cold office, that's just not very ideal. So that Celio little unit there really helps with that. We ended up actually removing the garage door off the front of this and insulating this. So again, you want to make sure you have a space that's going to be fully insulated. You know, I thought about doing the mini split units in the garage itself, but I don't think because of the way it's insulated in there, it may not have been as effective as we would have liked. So ultimately what I ended up doing back here is putting in the condenser unit. So as you can see, that's basically where it resides. Some of the remaining pipe, it has quite a bit of extra, sits here. Another thing I did was I got this universal bracket that basically holds the condenser unit. And then there's actually a drain pipe that's there down in the back left that drains any of the condensing water that's coming off when it's running during the summer months. I also got a kit to cover the line set that then goes up the wall here. So you can get these, it's basically a universal kit. And then the disconnect is actually right around the corner there. I have no way of coming around this fence. I would have had to go around the house the other way, which I should have. But basically, it's just a little disconnect box. So normally what you would do is, you know, have the electrician come in, pre-wire everything, get it all set up and running. And then in terms of the AC itself, you hire a HVAC contractor and just let them know, hey, I already had the electrical run, the breaker's ready to go, the AC disconnect is there, and then they will set up the rest. And if you get the additional components, they could probably set this up, and more or less you could add you know, heat and AC to a space without necessarily utilizing a window, which as you can see in this particular place, there are no windows with the exception of my slider, which we cannot use like an AC or anything like that, right? Even a standing AC would not have worked with this because we would have literally had to open the slider. So there's no other way to really heat or cool this other than doing like traditional baseboard or other means of heating. Anyway, hopefully you guys found this review helpful. Overall, I would say if you're considering going with the Leto, you know, the biggest thing to consider is using the third-party apps. You know, it can be a little bit more you know, tedious sometimes. Like it may not be 100% reliable in terms of always turning certain thermostat temperatures on. But I think if you're looking for something that's, you know, ultimately going to get the job done in terms of just having that Wi-Fi capability, this would really be a good bet to go for. And hopefully this has been helpful to help you guys with that decision. As in my case, you know, adding that little third-party tool was really something that has helped me quite a bit to just be able to turn on the heat or the AC earlier in the morning, and this thing has been working perfectly. Anyway, thanks for checking out my video, and I hope you found it helpful.